Dorjil, Sanjay, La Chazalo, Chazun, and Beijing, Muturike, Namjube, Dame, Chapa, Jesus, Ye, Malaysia, Chuchu, Kusu, Dabe, Chima, Chula, Dabe, Tasha, Chuma, Tobe, Janju, Simge, to the Sera Jangewana, do the Janju, Chambo, Sai, Ocean, Metal, Rally, Jenny, Juba idam borur
Once again, give rise to the precious mind and bodhicitta as our intention for receiving these teachings, thinking that for the sake of every sentient being, as vast in number as the sky is vast, to reach the level of complete enlightenment, the stage of Buddhahood, that you will listen to and receive these teachings of sublime Dharma, and having received them, put them perfectly into practice. Again today, this evening, our teachings will be on discussing text that puts out these stages of the path of to be trained in as a bodhisattva. The trainings of a bodhisattva are presented in 37 verses with 37 particular trainings of a bodhisattva. So this evening we'll start with where we left off, our discussion of the 6 paramitas. In particular, we've now arrived at the paramita of transcendent knowledge or transcendent wisdom, Shara.
그래서 다 대형 자와나 가능성 거래서나 실험면은 하루를 칭아예 조배 상주 더벌 문제비 탑단 대신 코som 도비 실험 공부 자세라는 예 소거래.
So verse 30 from the root text reads, without superior knowledge or transcendent wisdom, Sherab, it is not possible to attain perfect enlightenment through the first 5 paramitas alone. Therefore, joining it with skillful means and not conceptualizing about the 3 spheres to cultivate superior knowledge, Sherab, is the practice of a bodhisattva.
다 때가 아니 가장 이제 쉬이 봐. 다 바로 듣지 마. 얘네 따라가는 좀 내라스. 얘네 탑지 바로 듣지 마. 그러다가 얘네 실험지 바로 듣지 마. 얘네 따라가서 그랬어. 얘네 좀다 바로 듣지 마. 도스답게. 얘네 다 뭐가 나서 그랬어. 바로 듣지 마. 대상지 저 얘네 양선에 가서 나빠서 그러와. 얘네 다 대탐제장 서로 드나 탑당 실업제도 가서 탑시 얘기가 들어오고 왔어요.
So just as we were discussing yesterday in the Lojong teachings regarding the 6 paramitas, so the first 5 relating to skillful means, paramitas of skillful means or method, and then joined together with the 6th, the paramita of transcendent wisdom or superior knowledge, paramita of Sherab. Primarily regarding the paramitas, when they're taken as one's practice, when they're engaged in practice, taken into one's experience, then you practice them within the framework of what we call the 3 trainings. And the 3 trainings, likewise, can be subsumed down into the 2 aspects of top and Sherab, or skillful means and method.
네, 트레이드는 양가 저거배나 애니 실험에나 하루도 지방하게 되니 조배 단계 통는 거 말해서 송아 조배 상교 톱 문여받자 말제 하루도 침바생이 매야 두고 말해서 실험에나 애니 하루도 침바 그래서 애니 지금 바로 지금 바로 말하지 나를 다 하루도 침바생이 그 매인데 통도 말해.
So related to this, today, now our verse says, lacking superior knowledge of that aspect of Sherab, then the 5 paramitas alone lack the power, lack the ability to lead one to perfect enlightenment. Cannot attain enlightenment if you're lacking Sherab, transcendent wisdom, superior knowledge. So not only is that the case, but also if the other paramitas are lacking the aspect of superior knowledge, are lacking the aspect of the 6 paramita Sherab, then they also can't be called paramita, literally transcendent or having gone to the far shore. So when we talk about the other paramitas, the paramita of generosity, the paramita of discipline, for them to truly be called the paramita, to have that title, then it requires that they have this aspect of Sherab, transcendent knowledge.
나 대형 배도 될도와 배나 드린 말한 속에 애니 뭐가 맥내방 나야나스 야 애니 다 애니 사타는 것들을 로투 말와 옛날부터 로투 말했더니 야 남들은 로투 말해 삼배도는 로투 말해 니네형 매형 해야 꾸지여나 그것도 사만 로투 그래.
So it's analogous to 5 blind men hanging around. 5 blind individuals that by themselves, they really can't get very far. They can't go on a very far journey. If their aim is to go somewhere, they can't really get there. They can't see. They have no vision. So you give them one person with vision that can see, then all means of travel immediately become available to them. Travel by plane, cross whatever bridge there is. They can go anywhere as long as they have one individual that can guide them with eyes.
남자들은 이제 털래? 잠벨에 팔을 때 서로 강가파. 잠수 팔을 내 루트브레스.
So then, yeah, they can board a plane then. And if you can board a plane, then you can go anywhere. You can cross the largest ocean in the world.
올라섰다. 빼냈다. 버릇 치마. 근데 양 감지 버릇 치마 감지에 그 나네. 근데 다양한 속에 빼니. 다 탑 시럽이 발 하나씩 삼절 나오지는데. 얘는 제가 또 삼년지 버릇 치마. 그래도 와. 빼냈다 나랑 좀 신이 다지. 이나 빼냈다 나랑 좀 신이 랩된다. 아통 그 송으로 와. 빼냈다 나랑 좀 신이 돼요. 그냥 나통다 맞으나 신의 정보가 되는 거는 좀 돼요. 도움이 도와. 아니 맞아 그 명목을 드라스 던지 자와 돈이 지네. 왕 두고 말해.
So in the paramita, the paramitas of skillful means, the first 5. So really what bridges the gap between Sherpa and the skillful method is the paramita, the practice of meditative concentration. That's really what joins together the skillful means with transcendent knowledge, namely through calm abiding, for progressing in shamatha, as we discussed last week in verse 29. Vipassana perfectly endowed with shamatha. So perfectly endowed with shamatha, or endowed with perfect shamatha, perfect calm abiding. So then that becomes the bridge, and that is the foundation for true transcendent wisdom, knowledge. Where calm abiding shamatha alone, as we've said before, without the aspect of direct insight, vipassana, then regarding the afflictive emotions, poison of one's mind, the enemies of the afflictive emotions, just simply by calm abiding, they can be pacified, but they cannot be completely uprooted, severed from their very base.
Last week la sing Tere Sunju Yuri do Sunzwa. Kini ngalo Tere email ya maso. Ndi tanda kishi.
안에 다당가 송고 총차리요래. 저 이메일은 내왔지만도 그것도 다음 없어요. 다당가 송고 총총. 그래서 내왔죠.
I think relative who always listens in, she's saying, where are the teachings? No teachings tonight? What's going on? So Rouge is saying, we started, get on there. And she said she didn't get an email. I said, anyway.
가와이는 이렇게 락사스.
Sure. 신내 남자 네.
네.
또 maybe 신내
네. 오래 상황이었어. 제자가 빼나 다 신내대 곰도비 내갑라. 녀무바다 남도 돼서 제기요 말. 그 가르쳐 거로다 얘네 신내 제기보다 내려도 값어. 얘네 고속 강가다 지가랑 저봐. 그래서 뭔좀 기초를 써봐. 뭘 현재 서로서는 영어 만나서 온도라고 그거는 지금 하나 또 샘제 기능인데 그래서 마사지 내지 배는 다른 아주 신나는 매접이야이나 아니 서로서는 참아 듣고 얘나야 다 싸마 아니 단지 영어 받아서 정신 누구야만 가르쳐서는 보통이 무슨도 오케이 실업 되게 나랑 좋지 맞아요. 내가 또 가서들이 싸워지야 통해요. 그때 다 대통령 싸워지구나. 실업 보고.
Logan, Buljong.
Totally.
Okay.
What is it? Burjum.
Buljong.
Burjum.
Buljong. Totally. Gom caption becomes Nyun Mong Dang Nam Tok Day.
Yeah, it can. Like roughly, I think.
Superficially.
Roughly, it can cut it or uproot it, but not from the roots.
Yeah. Anyway. So regarding our training in calm abiding. So when you're accomplishing calm abiding shamatha, cultivating it in the state of meditation of shamatha, afflictive emotions, conceptual fixation does not proliferate as long as you're within the state when you're remaining in single pointed concentration, calm abiding shamatha. Then whatever proliferations of the mind are, for that time, completely or superficially eradicated, not there at all, or overwhelmed or suppressed, as long as you're remaining within that state. But as our analogy for calm abiding by itself, like a forest fire, or a fire can blaze through a forest and burn everything down, absolutely incinerate everything on the surface there. But the roots remain. As hot as the fire gets, as strong as the calm abiding is, it will eliminate everything superficially on the surface. But the roots are still there. As long as one is lacking sherab, the transcendent knowledge, the root is still going to be there. The root of ego clinging, of clinging to there being an independently existent self-identity of anything. That is the real root of the afflictive emotions of conceptual fixation. And as long as that is not cut through with sherab, then one is not overcoming, one cannot completely uproot the afflictive emotion. Which is why one's meditation must be embraced with the wisdom that realizes emptiness, the emptiness that realizes, well, if once you have that, then you can completely uproot the afflictive emotions.
다 코비 싸워대 가르래서는 얘네 말에 걸고 말에 걸었더니 얘네 출발되고 걸어서는 출발 출발돼 출발서는 가르서 그래서는 다 얘네 매번 다 주지 마 그래와 다 빼는 주자를 가서 얘네 대라 다 빼는 주자를 얘네 다음에 니가 맞았지? 다른 거랑 좀 배나 애니 세 뭐한테 써라 애니 지 요르다 커버 나은게 애니 다른 거랑 좀 지 애니 너해라 애니 다들 초르지지 애니 다 대답이거든요 단생님인데 내가 쏟다
Doesn't need what.
내가 쏟다 코르발라 챙수만 하루도 나랑 쪽에 코와데 돌구나 근데 다음에 이제 니로데 마도나 내가 가서 코르발라 줘야게 탑 배를
So what really is the very root, the foundation, root of samsara? It is marikpa, lack of recognition, or ignorance. And based on marikpa, the lack of recognition, or fundamental ignorance, then we have confusion or delusion, trupa. And this confusion, when we call trupa, confusion or delusion, really is samsara. Samsara is delusion, confusion. So this delusion really stems from our marikpa, our lack of recognition, lack of understanding, namely our apprehending a self, independently existent identities where there is no independently existent identity or thing. We cling to a self where there is no self. So this process of clinging to a self, not having the understanding of the truth of selflessness, is the lack of realization of what is the true nature of reality, the selfless true nature of reality. We lack the recognition of seeing things just as they are. And based on this, we have the two fundamental modes of clinging to self. All appearances are apprehended as being objects. External objects are mistaken as being external objects, and the perceiver of those is misapprehended as being ourself, the subject perceiving external objects. So this twofold clinging to a self, apprehension of a self, or independently existent identities, is exactly what bounds us in samsara, binds us to samsara. And ultimately speaking, if our goal, if we're after being liberated from samsara, then what needs to happen for that to be realized is the realization of the true nature of reality just as it is, which is the selflessness of all phenomena. Besides that, there is no means for true liberation.
대된 딱 말했고 돼. 딱 녀모대 가르쳐 버렸어요. 딱 말했고 딱 말했고 녀모대 르과차. 르과서는 니로라 말했거든 니로 모발. 시럽서는 니로 헤발. 네. 배나 누가게 녀고. 드럼이 맞아. 대대 딱 말했고 녀모라. 이 시럽고 시럽. 최단계나 장인게 니로 뱀벌이 시바. 다들 시. 뱀비네. 뱀비네로서는 다 가르쳐. 맞아. 배는 지금 다 아시. 뱀 라통 다음에가 또 시럽되게. 다시 제용부터 값어. 애는 맞아 가르쳐. 애는
Taksanchi.
맞아. 애는 최탐지. 인치 맞아봐. 애는 나랑 다시 자와. 아빠 때문에 더더 초반에 니로데 하고 오거든. 하때는 옹이스. 나도 얘네 다음에 또 싫었어. 어다 됐어. 싫었어. 알았어.
So this being the case, really our fundamental problem is marikpa, lack of recognition or ignorance. So what really is the true antidote to this? How do we really combat this? So marikpa, literally lacking awareness or lacking recognition, well then what we need is recognition or awareness, rigpa. Marikpa is literally lacking the awareness or recognition of things just how they are, the true nature of reality. We lack the awareness, the recognition of perceiving things in their true nature, just how they are. So this, what we call rigpa, or awareness, seeing the true nature just as it is also exactly what we mean by wisdom, transcendent knowledge, or shara. Shara, the knowledge that understands the true nature of reality. That's what we're after. So really it's analogous to darkness and the antidote to darkness, being a lamp. Where our ignorance, our lack of recognition is like being in the dark. In the dark, we can't see the true nature of things, but as soon as there's a lamp, then immediately you see exactly just how things are. So that's what we're after. That's the antidote to ignorance, is the wisdom that, like a lamp, allows us to see, have knowledge of the true nature of things, just as they are. The truth of the existence, just as it is. The naturally present true nature of reality. This is what's to be understood, to be known, which is also the, we can call the wisdom that realizes selflessness. That's a synonym for it. So to get to this, we can investigate, we can analyze, use our analytic capacities to think about, contemplate into the nature of things. Investigate, look into the nature of things. And in this way, build our understanding, the knowledge, the wisdom of the recognition and realization of the selflessness of all phenomena. Through our powers of investigation, then we can come to this understanding of recognizing that all phenomena in their nature are empty. All phenomena are selfless. That there's no truly independently existent identity to anything. So knowing this, understanding this, then, is understanding the true nature of things, the Neluk. Knowing things just how they are, that we call at once emptiness, the realization of emptiness, we call it Rigpa, or we call it the wisdom that realizes selflessness.
다 됐다고요. 네. 다른 저게 독립성인데요. 맞아. 데려봐. 내가 얘는 가서 남지 않게 지삼세네요.
For us, this understanding we can call emptiness, this term emptiness, it's also synonymous with ultimate bodhicitta. The ultimate precious mind of enlightenment is also the same thing as emptiness.
아, 됐다고요. 양 가서 가서 남지 돈이 또 받아. 얘네 양 가서 탑. 얘네 양 가서 그 얘네 소사 그만 거고요. 드린 가서 살아. 그래서 담담 현직 집이 시대 소사 드바다 그 아지당 소사 드바다 그 아지 근데 때문에 연구를 가는데 되게 맞을 때래요. 소사 드바야 돼. 야 고조 아니 탑도 속에 담담 보야라. 아니 로바고.
So this ultimate emptiness, in order to gain the realization, fully culminate and gain the ultimate realization of this emptiness, this transcendent wisdom. How do we go about that? What are the methods that facilitate that happening? Well, we have to amass the accumulations and purify our obscuration. This twofold method is how you go about what facilitates bringing about the realization of emptiness. As great master Saraha said, in order to gain the realization of ultimate co-emergent primordial wisdom, or ultimate innate primordial wisdom, Yeshik, this comes about based on the actions, the work of amassing the accumulations and purifying the obscuration. We're pointing out that it's based on our actively engaging in these two aspects that bring about, facilitate, or catalyze the ultimate realization. So we need these two aspects. We need to actively engage in these two.
그래서 내가 데려다가 그래서 스타비기는 그래서 탑도 대신 코선 도배스
Which is why here too it says, therefore joining it with skillful means and not conceptualizing about the three spheres.
얘네 다 말하는 또 얘네 다 사제지 공방 톱스를 가려는 로서는 얘네 뽕이 되게 스바 코르게 타 되는 봐 얘네 저러고 있어서 가리고 있어서
Really, what is it that when can it be said that one has attained Buddhahood, enlightenment? Really, through the realization of emptiness, transcending, or leaping over to the past the limit of cyclic existence or samsara. When one is liberated from or has leapt out of the limit of samsara, then one has arrived there.
얘네 다 양 말하면서 다 특마치 뭐 비카장의 쉐이마 다 탐지차 탐지처럼 되나 인제체 뭘 들어와 다네 말하면서 가르쳐 걸고 이니 되네 양 인제체 못 되게 해서 다 말하면서 시외기 타 랑이 찍고 그다 랑이었다 아니야 랑이었다 어디냐 줘봐 랑이 시부터 어디냐 때문이야 됐다고 그랬더니 맞아 스바 가서 얘네 시완양에는 데베 각지 얘네 옹이기 스탄 줘 인제기 심탁고 오게 되네 타니는 미네바서 저기서 주고 그래서
So within the Mahayana, specifically, how we understand perfect and complete enlightenment, Buddhahood, is the stage of enlightenment that transcends both extremes of existence and peace. Or as we were discussing yesterday, too. Yes, Sunday. Yeah. The skillful means, so our aspects of skillful method and wisdom again. So all the actions contained within the rubric of skillful means, method, relate to what we call great compassion, are all means or methods related to great compassion, this aspect of great compassion. And it's through the training in and realization of great compassion, through the power of one's great compassion, that one transcends, or does not fall into the extreme of peace, the peace of nirvana. The peace of nirvana, that is the state of liberation arrived at by individuals striving for their own purpose alone. Listeners and solitary realizers, Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas. Their stage of liberation where is what we call peaceful abiding nirvana. So through the Bodhisattva's power of great compassion, they transcend that extreme of abiding in peace. And then through the aspect of transcendent wisdom, or emptiness, in the Mahayana, ones are able to transcend cyclic existence, the extreme of cyclic existence. So then this is the definition in the Mahayana of complete and perfect Buddhahood, the stage of enlightenment that transcends both existence and peace.
다야 그밖에 못 알아듣지 않았어. 아니 돈이다 인제 생인데야 하자 하대라고 말했어. 그러나 이니 말하는 속에 돈이를 오용나서 인제들은 쇼기째요. 강에서는 돈이 또서는 가래 또고서는 최담지랑 이제 말로 빌리로 내가 통 대답은 말하는 통도 값은 대답은 내놓을 생기한 담지게 마통이 강해라다 동하라다 뭐다 탐에 받은 양들을 여봐 하고 하는데 라이징 인제 제용 물어봐. 근데 집에 탑이 말해서 오니 오바다 얘는 인제 제가 양이서 그래서 강들 들에서는 그 오니게 这里的话凝结了相中的说，
좀 있죠.
这里凝结了相中，样凝结给凝结全部就交了，凝结就我样，关键是凝结了让凝结嘛了，凝结这个头头看样嘛，凝结是都让凝结着嘛，凝结给样我的把关键的，这就的呢下里来说，这说着，人呢，刚才我就在带了关系还要成，东宁宁波街是吧？
Also within Mahayana, really, ultimate sense, in a real sense, the aspects of compassion and emptiness are not really distinct from one another. You can't really separate the two apart from one another. In fact, within Mahayana, when emptiness is realized, when one gains realization of emptiness, then naturally compassion is present there. So with emptiness, emptiness is the seeing the truth, the ultimate truth, the true nature of things, the direct experience and vision of the seeing the nature of all phenomena exactly as they actually are. This is the aspect of emptiness. So from having this realization, and also at the same time, synonymously, one will likewise be aware of the multitude, infinitude of sentient beings that lack this realization, that lack the understanding of emptiness, and based on their lacking the recognition of emptiness, of the true, ultimate truth, true nature of things just as they are, then all sorts of difficulties arise, all sorts of suffering arises for them, and you see this directly. So really, in that moment of emptiness, that realization, then compassion naturally arises as part of it. They arise at the same exact moment. There's no realization of emptiness free of compassion. In fact, it would be impossible to have a realization of emptiness where compassion is not naturally arising right there as well. It just can't happen. We can really say that great compassion is the energetic expression of emptiness itself. And then likewise, great compassion itself. You can't separate out great compassion from emptiness in any way. The very essence of great compassion is emptiness. Great compassion isn't some singular, tangible, objective thing divorced of being empty in nature. Its very nature is emptiness. So when you have great compassion, then its essence of emptiness is also naturally shining forth. A famous saying, I think it was Talopa, regarding emptiness, saying, emptiness endowed with the essence of compassion, or the heart of compassion, emptiness with the heart of compassion.
Really? 그래서 really? 가난들다 시럽게 벌어지바 통투소이라네요. 참 야바. 이제 말하게 송도와. 나도 진짜로 막 개요. 내가 오래 다 찍기는 마지기 되더라고. 그러나 마지 공부하니라니. 공부하니라. 잘하면.
공부하니라니.
공부하니라니. 네.
라스.
공부. 공부하니라니. 공부하니라 잘하면. 잘와. 다 잘하면은 이는 가서 가서는 참 요염을 봐. 공부하니 잘하면 나 참 좋을 자세도 없어. 대나게 공부하니는怎么면 그래? 怎么면 이만 좋으래. 아니 공부하니는 좋아요 말이야. 좋아하면은 저라 좋으래. 그래봐. 공부하니까 영화 말이 영화 맨날 공부 좀 삼년 좀 또
Jupiter. Jubanila Zimbabwe and Chimba.
공부하니까 좋아하면 인절다.
Sunday.
근데 자기가 내내 있는 것이 공부하니까 좋아하면 공부
Control.
저런 거 좋아하면 뭐 그래. 좋아하면 되는 거 알죠.
So actually, really, within wisdom itself, within Shara, all the 6 paramitas are complete. I think it was Machi said something regarding this. Machi Bhadran said, when remaining in emptiness, Shara, transcendent wisdom, remaining in emptiness, there's no Loban, Chawaman. Loban, can I get
faulty. Chelwas and faulty.
Huh?
Fault. Sutin chelwas like your
Oh, yeah.
Fault.
So, when one is remaining in the state of emptiness, there is no fault, like no deviation. So therefore, there is discipline, perfect ethics. When remaining in emptiness, there is no anger, no aggression, no aversion. Therefore, patience is perfected. There is patience. When remaining in emptiness, there is no fixation, no grasping whatsoever. Generosity is present. Within emptiness, there is no distraction. Therefore, there is meditation, meditative concentration.
Voilà, c'est des sondances, hein? Grandalliance, hein? Elle est théâtre, elle est ninja. Elle est là, son de juguate, elle est là, pas de 도주 탐지치, 공과, 타르토바. 얘네 다 마음에 다 들으지래서 다들 내비 사지에 탑지 전사 식사들 남대한테 마음과 탐지게 얘네 다 간섭 거라 얘네 랍사대한테 아다는데 냠나요 때래 대땐 다 대다부터 내가 저보다 mentioned Chukchi Simpson, there are several words.
This realization, this teaching of the unity of the 2 aspects of emptiness and compassion, inseparability, the unity of emptiness and great compassion, is really the ultimate intent, the ultimate wisdom mind of all vehicles, all teachings of the Mahayana, of the great vehicle, be it sutra or tantra. It is the ultimate realization to be had. It is that which is was realized by all the Buddhas of the past. The path that they traversed led to this realization. It is what is to be trained in for all Buddhas of the future, and what we should be engaging in right now, taking into our experience. It is the true meaning of precious bodhicitta.
다음에는 좀 같이 묻히고 그래. 공부한 얘기 전에 고학 배운 말이야. 공부한 얘기 전에 얘네 공부를 했어. 다 때는就这么了背，你给我写写，没做过老话的说了。 하나 그거는 행음 안 했어요. 그래서 되네 말하면서 갖고 온 것도 서로 취하다 찬다 자다 빌려다가 꼬마 생 말해 다 너무 약더니 꼬마 독기로 와 저거 어디서나 가서 칼라 사고래마도 칼라 한꺼번에 팽입니다 너무 칼라 했더니 한꺼번에 만세거든요 저거 또 했어요 그래서 몇 뽑아라 세 고민만에 사고봤다 최퇴비만에 냠설하는 거예요 오미 퇴비만에 오미도 냠설하는 거예요
So regarding emptiness, there's one very important thing to know about it. So with emptiness, really just hearing about it, just having a superficial understanding about it, will be of no benefit whatsoever. It has to be cultivated, meditated on. Cultivated, you have to habituate yourself to emptiness. Milarepa gave a great analogy pointing out how this works, the necessity for taking emptiness into one's own experience, making it a practice. Saying, for the starving, hearing about food will be of no benefit, will not satisfy their hunger. And for the thirsty, somebody says water, chang, tea, just hearing that won't benefit them at all. In fact, it might make it worse. It might make you more hungry or thirsty just to hear about food. Just to know it's there, to hear about it, make you long for it even more. But if you don't eat it, there's no actual benefit that can come. So Milarepa spoke to this saying, just as hearing about food will not satisfy a hungry stomach, likewise, leaving the Dharma as listening, superficial understanding of listening, will be of no benefit. The Dharma is to be taken into one's own experience, to be trained in, to be practiced, made a spiritual practice. Which really here is referring to emptiness. Just listening to teaching, hearing about emptiness is no benefit. What we need is to make it a living experience.
only and only onward. Combines only then young person. Only the corner and young one. Dancing the young one is the Chechong Chechala torch. Then oh, big you never so thank you. Then ya Chechel torch. 제상 제상을 조지. 다 대답되는 나라 쪽에 사 남색의 델스고래. 아주 연애소야 야야. 지금 아주 연애 냐무 왔다 찍파 방로도. 근데 연애들 때서 야야야야. 야 제로고. 다 되는 나라 쪽사 생고 사표 남와생에서 장교수면 대세월 마도. 아니 연단제 나라 쪽 버티겠어요. 근데 사자 정지 가르쳐놓은 약계는 정지기나 사자지 다양한
Or it's like being sick. Being sick and getting your prescription filled. You've got your medicine. Oh, I've got my medicine now. I can set it in front of me. And being like, then relaxed. Oh, I have my medicine, everything's going to be okay now, without having taken it. So that's what this is like with emptiness. Hearing about emptiness doesn't do the trick. It needs to be cultivated, made and experienced, realized through cultivation. So there's a Tibetan saying, it's not, don't meditate, habituate. Meaning that They're kind of homonyms in Tibetan. What we mean by meditation is really to habituate yourself, to cultivate the experience of something. And by doing that, by cultivating the experience, habituating yourself to emptiness, to the teachings of the Dharma, then it's really by that the afflictive emotions and clinging to self and ego clinging are vanquished, are destroyed, cut through. And by this, by habituating yourself to these teachings, in particular with emptiness, wisdom of emptiness, then enlightened qualities naturally develop more and more as you habituate yourself more and more. This is exactly what we mean in the teachings when we talk about the paths and bhumis, progressing along the paths and bhumis. That as the afflictive emotions decrease and diminish, then the enlightened qualities naturally progress, and that natural development of qualities is the progression through the 10 bhumis and 5 paths that we talk about. Really, there's no other way to understand the paths and bhumis than that. They're not some like specific place you get to or you go to. There's not some magical staircase that you're climbing up. It's really just talking about this process of taking into your experience, habituating yourself to the teachings, and then naturally one's development progresses.
그래서 대내성과 다가는 애니 다 실업도야 다 지금 알아서 두삼 검색과 하고 두지 두비도나 삼지 삼니 검지 어다 변하게 됐더니 말은 정도 애니 냠선에 받이 작실라래 예 송바래 실업 bomba제서는 송도 같은 거 실업 보아제서는 송도 어떻게 같이 모르도 송 실험 보아자시다니 성과네.
So for share transcendent wisdom, so we train in it through the 3 phases of listening, contemplation, and meditation. First receiving teachings on it, then contemplating the meaning behind those teachings, and then taking the meaning that's been contemplated on as a living experience in meditation. Cultivation, habituate ourselves to it. So training in that way then is to cultivate superior knowledge is the practice of a bodhisattva. So here to cultivate or to habituate oneself to superior knowledge is the practice of a bodhisattva. It's definitely not saying to hear about or to have a conceptual understanding of superior knowledge is the practice of a bodhisattva. It says to cultivate or habituate yourself to it. Very important point.
그래서 다 대소도 잡아내고 같이 살지. 되네. 쉬월라 되는 다 가르세고 다야. 대답이 다 증가라서 되네. 잘 쳤으면 되서 다지. 제세고 다 남자 보나 냠는지야 다 가지지 되는 송고요래. 다 되노니 얘네 다 당고 얘네 지켜라 다 나서니 돈에 소야 추기 생기는 당고도 가르세나 랑이 투바다 딱 공화생 랑게 투바 랑게 마다나 추비속이 추미 제스비 대처를 윤들 랑게 투바라 아니 공화 자세라니
It's really here the root text itself and the main practices, the root practices are complete. Then there are some auxiliary instructions, trainings for us to engage in while on the path of a bodhisattva. Really, they're like enhancement practices, particular methods, skillful means to enhance our practice. In the sutras, these next 4 are what we call the 4 dharmas. The first of which is presented here in verse 31. If you have not analyzed your own confusion, so not investigating your own delusion or confusion, then you might put on a dharmic facade while behaving in a non-dharmic way. Therefore, to continually analyze your delusion and then discard it is the practice of a bodhisattva.
되네. 그 남도 생겼잖아. 뭐제마 가요 말에. 출발하는 가면 됐어 그래. 랑그랑 마다나 되네. 주 멤버게 되지 맞아. 자만을 제 쓰게 해서
One's own conceptual fixations, proliferations in one's mind, whatever is proliferating, can be a delusion, can be various different manifestations of delusion or confusion. So without investigating, analyzing what is arising in your own mind, one's own confusion and delusion, if you're not doing that, then it's likely or definitely possible that one's conduct activities become non-dharmic or negative.
저는 뭐 가장 баг게 시시 그죠. 보도 맨날 뭐라고 하는지 잘못도. 우선은 배워놔요. 근데 그 니마티 진단 나는 그러네. 근데 진단은 그렇더니 거다지 좋아지던지. 아니 코팅 담았더니 자그들 거서 고마지요. 아니 코스한테야. 나랑 상관을 안 좋아서 나도 자드는데 진단 거는 자를 먹어도 다 자지. 난 거서네. 그랬더니 근데 아빠도 자도 그냥 와라고야 해버렸어. 애는 근데 남산 거부터 그냥 그런 거지. 애는 그런 거지 따뜻하. 난 나지. 아니 나지 가서 마음을 받게 되는 레지라도 꼬집어서 그런 끼는데 통전. 근데 남산 깨져지는 어이 진짜 대쇼도 꼬마래도 진짜다 미안해요. 꼬마 가도 꼬마 개도 기쳐서 도스게 다들 랑가 세트 배치서 했네. 나한테 지금 가서 제가 대단하게 이제 딱 계제는데 왜서 말
Aquí lapa de ching.
야, 그런 진단을 했을 때 봤지? 꼬만데.
Didn't actually change it. So one story.
하기도 제일 많아. 공부하고 뭐 잘하면서 제일 많아. 그런 안 그쯤 됐는데 제가 말은.
So long ago there was a Kadampa master. I guess you Putoa. We think maybe we're not sure if it was Putoa or not. It's a story from Where's My Perfect Teacher? About this master who Kadampa master had come out of retreat for a bit, his small retreat hut in the mountains, and gone down to his sponsor, his benefactor's home, and was there, hanging out, and the benefactor had gone into the kitchen and was in another room, and on the table in front of him was some tea leaves. So he immediately thinks, oh, at my little retreat, I'm all out of tea, I don't have anything up there. Oh, I'll just take some of this. Take it for me, go up. So he has this thought and reaches out and takes up some tea, and then immediately recognizes his fault, sees his crime. He's taken that which was not given, he's stolen. So immediately grabs his arm and yells out, "There's a thief! There's a thief!" The benefactor comes running in. "Where is he? Where's the thief?" He points his arm. "There it is! There's the thief! It's my hand! Cut it off!" Anyway, Rinpoche says we should be like this. This is how to act, investigating our own faults and crimes, our own delusion and confusion when it arises, to immediately recognize it and then abandon it, relinquish it.
니바테 내가 좀 반사해니 나사다고 같이 현지 직관사다 니바가 장생 현지 니바 나와 녀모 관계 자세 연하게 니바는 다니 냠죠데 빠체의 쇼핑 강하게 니바만 자세라는
So then the second of these four dharmas is to not disparage or not speak of the faults of other bodhisattvas. So our verse text says, if compelled by your own afflictions, you speak of the faults of other bodhisattvas, you yourself will degenerate. Therefore, never to mention the faults of those who have entered the Mahayana path is the practice of a bodhisattva.
아니 베네치 장초 스마트서 얘는 제가 하면서 아니 스마트다라 얘네 니에바데네나 템텔라 카세 이거 참고해서 이나요 까나랑서 장초 스마스인데 나 장초 스마이 세는 로딩이지 마셔 요사바스 카블라 케베 장초 스마스 가와라 요하 고마는 알았어. 맞아 뛰어나 장교 스마트를 하고 연습을 나도 디다. 연습을. 직진은 맞아 장교 스마이 센로딩에서 직진 장교 스마이 이거만. 근데 가와 요시만 간들 가르이는 면에서 단지가라서 주의시오. 나 되는 말하면서 옛날에서 이제 수이나 차도 왕대. 내 지금 이해가先讲的时候不大，让个讲的大气，对吧？我都是这样的，你看到这个你，开心不有来说。
So it's taught that disparaging or speaking of the faults of a bodhisattva is tremendously negative. That being said, who is and is not a bodhisattva can be hard to tell. Often bodhisattvas will be going about kind of in secret. They're not necessarily going about saying, I am a bodhisattva, do not disparage me. You may not know. Maybe in this room right now, many of us, many of you may be bodhisattvas, great bodhisattvas. The bodhisattvas are expert in skillful means and method, which means they can appear in all sorts of guises and places, often without anyone knowing the difference. Probably, if someone is going around claiming to be a bodhisattva, I am a great bodhisattva, maybe that one isn't. Anyway, point being that so. Who is and who isn't a bodhisattva? Who is hard to tell. So for us, we can think of anyone that is all individuals that have entered into the Dharma can be considered in this way. And then in particular, to not point out the faults of other bodhisattvas based on the afflictive emotions arising, jealousy, mind of competitiveness, or the other afflictive emotions, based on the one's own poisons arising, to focus on and fixate on and point out the flaws of others is not to be engaged in. So instead, look at and investigate one's own faults and flaws, and do not disparage or focus on the faults of others.
간제에서 하고 사지로 간사도 무슨 비 서로에 구바마다
강사가
강사도 코 가세레 코 가레레 수강하고 말해서 산지 따위나 뜬하고 그러와 나도 나서가 강사는 서가 가레이 서장교 선바이 서 가레이
Geshe-Long Tongpa spoke to this, saying, ordinary individuals cannot see the measure of another. Only the Buddhas can do that. Really meaning that as ordinary beings, ordinary individuals, we don't have the capacity to truly see the qualities, the measure of another individual, to actually see who is a bodhisattva, what's really behind this action, what is that person really like, who are they truly, and so on. We can't do that as ordinary beings. Such capacity is solely to those of enlighten the Buddhas.
대단히 참여를 하세게 되었어. 다 감성 생제 세비 대체와 장좀 수반하는 거라다 도면 대체해서 통하셔.
참.
도면 대체해서 통하셔.
Chakmay Raga Asai likewise said,
감성 생제단지 세반지
Sevale.
장교 수반을 꼽았다는 뜻이래.
La.
다음에 뒷바 마사스. 뒷바 사고 통하셔.
He said, a greater fault, a greater negativity than killing every sentient being, murdering every being in the 3 realms of cyclic existence is to disparage or point out the faults of a single bodhisattva. Therefore, abandon such meaningless negativity.
아이, 손 봐라. 예, 골방 템전 저주신 표상범이 샤완 냠조비 자시 참다 긴가 참나 차파공을 제세라니 되니 긴가라 소파 되니 그래서야 예 연지 되니 뭐라 차파공을
So next, our third dharma, desire for gain and honor leads to arguments, and activities of listening, reflecting, and meditating decline. Therefore, to relinquish attachment to the household of friends, relatives, and sponsors is the practice of a bodhisattva. So to benefactors or friends, really to having attachment or clinging to the wealth or abundance of others is to be abandoned.
예바당 나 예바스는 배는 뭐는 구비하다 되니 딴 소소지 체 년다가 수업해 체다 이러와 얘는 다 지금 와서 펜트 되는 지 카땅이야 대나긴 되는 저반제야 근데 그 다 지금 알아 저거 애니 되는스 되네 맞았어. 근데지는 아니 샤그르스는 랑 퇴상범이 시아와든지 냐마 맞지? 아니 내가 때는 지금 와서 아니 차량라서 아니 이거 좀 싸스 그래서 근데 소방 아니 그래서 근데 강아야 아니 지금 맞아봐. 처음에 해봐야 돼. 경주수만 드는 게 아니라 그래서.
Desire for gain. Gain here meaning abundance, wealth, property, enjoyments, fame, renown, status. Gain and honor. Chasing after this. Longing for this leads to arguments, quarrels, dispute. Conflict arises based on that attachment, longing for that. Then by this happening, then one's activities of listening, reflecting, and meditating decline. So one's understanding, one's cultivation of the aspects of listening, contemplating, meditation, cultivation, dissipate, decline. Not only that, also there's the likelihood of great negativity being amassed of one's afflictive emotions, in particular one's desire and aversion being activated by this attachment to gain and honor. So do not have such attachment. To relinquish attachment to the household, to friends, relatives, and sponsors is the practice of a bodhisattva. To not be attached to not focus on gain and honor.
뭐더지나 딴 가는 쪽은 가르쳐요. 초시제 같이 모였어. 초시 연하 아니 맞아. 나머지 축복을 했어. 초시면은 아니 가르쳐 너한테 막꽃 보여줘 주고 했어. 너꽃 보여줘 주고 하는데 쭉 가서 너 고야 가요 말았어. 그런다고 드는 말은 그렇게 속상해요 말았어. 초시에 연은 그래. 연은 여 초를 가서 여세 요구야 요 말해. 연은 써남을 와야. 써남을 방구예요. 써남 맞아 땐 써남 조래 가서 써남 때 애니 가서 애니 님고 랜드 보래 가서 잠깐만 드려도 봐. 가르세. 로종구나 드려도 봐. jorba 연에 여배 가스. jorba 연에 와서 애니 써남 싸 초그래서 애가서 가고 jorba 면은 매버래 매비 토나 생제제나 jorba 용량 배 토고 말해 그래봐 마피아만 맞지 선바가 또 할게 매바이나 매비지 강은 여밖에 총시제는 그래 별은 가란서다 며칠 상무하고 있다 나서 너한테 누구 방대 동어지 고도 칼라지 고도 되는 가서 사와는 하대로 아 이제 와다 나서라도 배쳤다는 하나 데려다 버리도록 도스키 상무다네 대정나야 될때 맞지 야 여바이나 되네 가자 여바이나 대양 가란서 애네 세남매야지 손조매야지 이제 이제나야 해놔야지 방금 해줬다 개발로 대학 가고
Really related to this verse, and in brief, the most important point is the quality of contentment, having contentment with wherever one's at. One has, as it said, the individual who is truly content, and with whatever they have, they are rich. The individual that has contentment is wealthy, based simply on having that contentment. For the individual lacking contentment, they're like a cup with a leaky bottom. You fill it up for all eternity and it will never be filled. As long as one is lacking contentment, then there cannot be satisfaction. One will never have enough. So then, with contentment, then whatever one's situation, one can be content. One can be okay. One can take that as the path. If one has abundance, if one, as taught in the other Lojong teachings, when one is when one has abundance, then recognizing that has come about based on merit and having a sense of gratitude towards it. Oh, I'm with abundance now. That's wonderful. There's no need to relinquish everything to be a beggar all the time. I have abundance. Then having that, recognizing it's come from merit, and then also recognizing that it affords you the opportunity to take up the very essence of having abundance, namely having choice to use it, using it to offer to help others, to do your own practice, to engage in whatever various means and methods of positivity and virtue one has. So then you rejoice when you're when things are going well for you, you rejoice. Based on this merit, things are going well. Now I have the choice to engage in virtue, engage in practice to help others. How wonderful. And then when you don't have anything, when you're lacking, then why worry? Recognizing that worrying, obsessing on being without is certain to not bring any benefit. In fact, it just tends to make things worse. It increases the experience of suffering or torment that one may be going through. So instead, to take contentment with wherever one's at, and to make this a practice, with contentment, even if one is lacking in many things. Still have a body, still have clothes, you can still engage in many things. Thinking in this way, having this type of understanding, taking contentment with wherever one is. And then likewise, when we do have abundance or gain and honor, to have, be free of a sense of covetousness or grasping to that. And to instead focus on the ability that one has to be of service to others and to engage in and accomplish virtue.
되네. 맞지. 아니, 나게 다 쳐줘지. 인지가 하는 게 말이야. 그냥 다 보고서. 거기에다 벗어요. 전부를 랩티네티 매트를 가졌어. 아니, 코다다가 저 가르쳐. 이 인터뷰한테 같은 레지도 호시에도 와. 나 빼지 보였어. 나 빼. 코다 빼지서 대 보였어. 내가 지 보였어. 그래. 나 처음 말하는 라모였어. 지 보였어. 할 걸 잘 알아보면서 남군이 그랬어. 남군이 그것도 양참. 응? 그걸 가르쳐. 얘는 동거하다 되는 거는데 진짜 지금은 뒤에 니스 요요요에서 얘네야 그 사람 너무 그 요라지 강화도 하는 거 삼아라. 그 로고는 로데 버스 가와라 조고. 저 선제 가야면서 콜레나 왜 코피 치고 있어.
I have a Dharma friend, Dharma companion. Maybe some of you have heard of him. He's a Western monastic, Matthew Ricard. He's written a book or two, maybe you've heard of him. So he was interviewed once, we were discussing. He would often say, talk about how rich he was, how wealthy he was, and how happy, content with his life he was. How really say he was extremely happy. And he would often talk about how his sense of being completely free, having total freedom. Really, he owned almost nothing. He had 2 shoes, and that was about it. Maybe 2 changes of clothes, two other sets of robes for him. I think everything he owned, he could fit in one single little backpack, one little bag. So he would say, whenever I want to go somewhere, wherever I want to go, I'm ready to go. It's easy, nothing holding me back. His life is really easy like that, completely worry-free. And he really was extremely happy, contented person.
맞서는 말아 전달문인데 명들을 말도 맞서는 맞아요. 전부들이라고 그려 가서 카투 어떤 왜자라고 어떤에 제가서 전부들 아니 맞서 그걸 쓰면 되지 막 가요 말았어. 얘는 현재로 벌써 코멘트도 잘하고 그랬어. 자, 지우라고 그랬어. 그래서 그 지우라 그 생기와는 그 생고를 거더니 좀 내야로. 그 미국 고요 말에 예, 내 고요 말에 미국 고요 말에. 그래서 그 선생님들이 거더니 그 말을 상관없이 선대한테 예. 어쨌든 그 잘하고 그랬어. 잘을 내고 말에 미국 고요 말에. 그때도 그 선생님들이 그때 중요한 거 남아 있었는데.
When we travel with Tensei Rinpoche, always had massive bags, huge stuff we're taking with us, all sorts of clothes, stuff, texts, paycheck, all sorts of stuff we're carrying with us. And Matthew would just show up with his little sleeping bag. That's it. Wherever we went, Tensei Rinpoche called him the bird. It's just like a little bird that doesn't need anything. It just finds this little branch and rests for the night. Doesn't need a bed, bedding, pillow, cushion, mattress, anything at all. That was Matthew. He just had his little sleeping bag. Wherever he'd show up, he's, oh, okay, here's my spot. You throw in a sleeping bag and sleep there. Really quite easy. Tensei Rinpoche called him the bird. He's just like a bird.
이나 콜을 단전제 니와래 와체지와 콜다 와고 와체지 깜부지 때는 내고 가발을 치네 콜을 거
He was quite attached to two things, though. He had some clinging to two things. His camera and his computer, which he took absolutely everywhere with him. Wherever he went, he had his camera and computer.
그래도 나는 때문에 다 들을 거지 때문에 요 말에 들을 거지 때문에 다 근데 까시들 소는 때문에 다 나는 때문에 좀 벌쳐서 요 말아 근데 다 배쇼고 소리 해야 돼 근데 이게 막 못해서 봐
그러지.
간생활로 벌쳐서 요 말아 근데 니마 지금 말처럼 그런 다 니마 좀 치고 거기 옛날 지금 싸바지 돼 근데 나는 때문에 드레스 컴퓨터 보드 전부터 내줘 쫙쫙 내가 됐어 내가 백가스 근데 뭐만 있는 나 도통 쉬지 배치한테서 되니까 나는 봐야요 말 고쳐요 말 근데 배치해서 지 사람이 소소 배트는 줘야 잖아 아 그걸 제가 요로 막고 됐어 아지마 다 쳐렸을 때 콜을 찍고 나라 도통 총으로 근데 좋은 걸 알아야 돼. 얘는 말하는 거 어쩌겠어? 말하는 하나 딱 두고 믿어.
Record this attack. Record this or that.
어쨌든 양게 양만 이건 얘거라. 때까지 얘 토비도. 얘 마서 근데 그런 거 저기 찍기는 걸 찍어 좀 그래서 파지 투라로 했어요. 에마 기다 전대로 보니까 나 소베 때 찍어요. 뭐 배드니까 좀 난 이만 메트를 가서 치모도 나를 알아서 나도 돼. 얘네 아야 돼 싫어 맞대. 이제는 예 조조요. 이제 예 맞아.
Back in those days, I didn't have a recording device. Kensei Rinpoche was teaching all the time. I'd go to his teachings and had no means to record them. Also, often didn't have my own copy of Peicha. When he would teach them, I would take, very attentive notes and I'd be extremely focused on the teachings. And when I did have the Peicha opportunity to look at Peicha, I'd read through it very meticulously, 2, 3, sometimes 10 times, to really ingrain it, really take in the teachings. So then one day, Matthew had gotten a brand new tape recorder. Back then, it was, giant big box tape recorder with big buttons. And he gave it to me. And when he gave it to me, I was so happy. I finally have a tape recorder. This is great. I can record these teachings, listen to them again and again. As soon as I had the recorder, then my interest and diligence in listening to the teachings immediately decreased. I'd listen to the teachings, it's all right there, it's great. No longer so fixated, so focused on taking my notes, focusing on the text. It was all recorded there. It's easy, I can listen to it later. And really, actually, many faults came about from that. At once, I really gave less interest to teachings. I was less attentive during teachings, during Kensei Rinpoche's teachings, and then also my great plan to listen to all these teachings later, I'm never able to do that. And a lot of them now have kind of, by the passing of time, have been destroyed or gone.
다 지마들 숲을 책이 현샘 죽여지 야비 시집 교촌 남쪽이 대표는 현재 이도 뭐비 특도 보면 제슬라래.
So then fourth, harsh words disturb the minds of others and compromise a bodhisattva's right conduct. Therefore, to give up harsh and unpleasant speech is the practice of a bodhisattva.
되네. 다 참상한테 그때서 야고 해마시나 는 ጽ보대서가 미대서 남산지 되네. 혼돈한 거도 봐. 아니 다 뭔가 좀 칸바돼서 일단 연기보다는 시시고 말했어. 갖고 가야 되는 지금부터 세계서 빼줘버려.
Regarding this, sometimes what happens is by not knowing how to speak pleasantly, not knowing the nice words, that kind of naturally come off quite harsh or rough. And, just by not really knowing how to speak real gently and nicely, then people can get upset by that. They get angered by that. For us poor Kampas, we just don't really know how to, speak nice. We often just come across crass and rough.
그만들어 가서 현재는 뭐지? 당한서 남고에 들어가. 아니, 양 현재는 뭐지? 로마. 직드는 매바죠. 매바라마치. 고토가는 뭐지? 했어요. 토가고 있지. 근데 그냥 라사거든. 깨자듯어. 년보. 야고学送些的。근데 가서 되는 저것도 간발 때는 경계야. 라마 첨보를 가해야. 그냥 야고 시시오만 가서 다 깨자듯어. 그때에서 가면서 말아. 아니 공가 좀 내들어 누구요래. nentada za chutaya tende. Tene nima chinata. Ane karsa zungsar chinsa ina rungu jambu na kongwe da jib nido yomare.
Zungsar chinsa
rungu jambu sui na da mi jik ting sang nido. Tene choka ta tren ngaran so rumba chi da chiang chi da sui na chungla. Tene mindo da pa yung rungu jambu re doa. Tene ta tren ngaran so ta wabjung de meba chen na marwe. That is, 나이든 맞아 때스 깨자 된대지 다 전주면도 깨자 시야는 말해서 그때 송된 공부해서 어제 다들 가르쳐 나도 남아 죽고 생애돼서 근데 들어왔어요 가르쳐 대화까지 선제로서야 샘나 통하지 깨자 뭐 송해고도 왔어 회사들이 최고도 내가 와서 회사들이 진짜가지 보조제를 말해서 내가 거기서 얘네 다들 뒤에 이렇게 이제 소리가 그냥 뭐야 말해 쓰기 줄로 아니 그래서 그래 페나스 아니 미치겠다 되는 거서 미치용 되는 미치용 건 너무 잘하나 그래 자 통제 자 통나면서 걔나야 스자강이에 근데 자 통세는 자 통세는 지금 나왔어 이내 엄마가 배 처음이나 떨렸어
Some time ago, Spencer was teaching the Dhamma Treasury of Oral Instructions, Dhamma. And one of Khensa Rinpoche's disciples, then, is a master doctor, Chogawa Rinpoche, famous doctor. And he was from Lhasa. And at the time, there was a number of us tokus and lamas, younger tokus and lamas around. Most of us, or all of us, we were kampa, calm, rough speakers. We were saying, we didn't know any better. We didn't know all this, honorific talk, these fancy Lhasa folk. So Chogawa Rinpoche was teaching us medicine, how to check the pulse and different, teaching us medicine. And so I was like, Khensa Rinpoche, or I think it was Driko Kyabgun Rinpoche was there. And one day we show up and he says, so are we going to take a day off studying really medicine intensively today? We say, yeah, sure, all right. Oh, well, let's talk about something else then. Let's, switch topics for the day. What should we talk about? Well, let's, all of you are, you're all lamas, you're all tokus. So really what we call a lama, a toku, is someone that should bring about peace and happiness, well-being in the minds of sentient beings. So to do that, really it would benefit you to know how to speak pleasantly that will affect the minds of beings. So maybe today we'll talk about the honorific language, the Tibetan honorific language. There's a whole lexicon of just honorific terms in Tibetan. So he says, how's that sound, you guys? So we say, yeah, that's great. Lovely. Let's do that. So his example was saying, so say you invite a guest over and they show up to your house, and you show up in your house and you yell at them, hey, want some tea? And then, or, they show up in your house and you use your lovely honorific language, which is something, like, I don't know, hello, honored guest, would you care to partake of some tea or something? So the meaning behind it's exactly the same, he tells us, They both mean the same thing. Do you want tea? Would you like to drink some tea? But the feeling that the two expressions inspire is totally different, is it not? So anyway.
Really? Yeah, 간발에서 때 수직 드니 마가나 랑선 농과 남바 땡그랬어. 드니 랑선 드레치 그랬어. 아!
Also, combos, if they, in the first moment of not liking something, something's not going right for them, you immediately see it in their face. Express it immediately, like that.
알았어. 내려왔어. 다 가운데를 가서 간사 애니 책 됐으면 나한테는 지금 알아서 배 다 나서 대신 말은 나한테 깜짝 놀라서 나서래. 가서 나한테 소리 나서 해결해 말해. 다다야 대가라래 생각하다. 이내용 때는 대자보다 소문에 지금 나서 네. 그래서 야구 믿었어. 그래와. 네. 시행 도왔어. 아니 책 속에는 야모시야 돼. 괜찮아 보여요.
Like for us, it was us that didn't, know these fancy words, honorific words, and it really was us that were kind of being scolded and directed by him. And but in reality, it's such honorific language. It's quite good. It has its function. To speak gently, to speak well to people is important, very good.
네, 운동은 근데 그래. 그래서 다 도마도서 저대야 기구와 드베는 거 이해서는 저래. 네, 대난게 당보대 녀발 나왔어 그래.
So in the sutras, it also discusses the particular regarding the means to gather disciples. The 4 particular means for gathering disciples. The first of which is
당보대 지마도 당보대 지마도 니한테 녀발 나왔어 그래.
So not the first, actually, the second. The first is jinpa, to give. To give acts of generosity. And the second is to be pleasing to the ear, to speak beautifully.
이니 삼삼에 깨자 야보시에 마신 밀레가 파체 야 밑에라 지 깨자들 소보니 시니 밑에 마가와 지야 컨트롤에 놓는다
Nyempate?
내가
Cute.
Yeah.
알아서 이거 야보시 째려 밀바 밀자 이는 시에 당서 야보 마서 밑에 가 마시 다시 밑에 컨트롤 안 해야 돼 내가 영어도 왔어.
That being said, making gifts, even if you give something to someone and don't present it nicely, gently, properly, then even that giving a gift can be a cause that will lead to disturbing their mind, upsetting them, making them angry. You need to speak well in giving, in everything.
잠자는 나쳤더니 나저 샤쇼부도 쓰더니 쇼부도 쓰 가릅니다. 아니 나서 샤쇼부도 써도 쓰나 진짜 미라 깨자시나 동을 따네 누가 하시면 그래 동발을 두고 있는 파트 동발 두스 때는 또 캐치 나서는 대 밖에 쇼크 보도가 미라 깨자시 동발 연다를 때 연기도서 너무 혼란하는 것도 쓰고 내가 딱 발라고도 저런 미라 깨자시는 동발을 때 거래 매일 때 거래 아니 되는 거지 이내 가서 밖에 대 양지 다른 뭐 되지 않을 때 있고 또 깨지야지 밖에 좀 되지 깨져 봐셔야 동발을 때는 지금 맞아야 되지 이제나 좀 때까지 믿어서야 남자 그 사람이 더 먹어.
Also, cultural factors, come into play with this too. In the East and in the West, there are differences in how you address someone, how you speak to someone. For us Asians, for us Tibetans, at least, when you're speaking to someone, you'll tend to not look them directly in the face. You address them, you kind of look somewhere else as you're talking. Eyeball them as you're talking. You'll kind of look down, look away. And really, that's not polite. If you look directly at somebody, it can be upsetting. It's a bad thing to do. It's considered, improper, negative. But here in the States, in the West, it's kind of the opposite. When you speak with someone, you look them in the eyes, in the face. You speak directly to them. Rinpoche says, Meilong tells him this all the time. Reminds him this. When you're talking to those guys, look them in the eye. Look at their face when you're talking to them. But really, it's this deep, habitual imprint in us. Asians, you don't, look down when you're addressing someone. That's respectful. But you can consider that bad. So anyway, cultural mores need to be considered.
그냥 이게 가르쳐 지켜야 되지. 저는 전에 와서 통통 지게도 상고였는데 와서 지 가면도 나는 인터뷰에 민망하고 뭐지 와서 가면도 가르쳐서 다 데려요. 저기 그냥 양보 시험하시 니는 매일 때는 동반을 또 시험 때문에 그냥 유스키는 매일 파티 레드 서포트 나오지 야 티미면서 거기서 멍불라고 그러는 뭐지 와서 가기
So here I am, Rinpoche says, I don't know how to talk nice to you guys, don't know how to look at your face when I'm talking to you. And I don't know all these things, didn't know how to do this. Don't know the nice ways to talk, to look you in the eyes when we're talking, and it really comes up in interviews quite often. People come out of interviews and I hear people saying, Rinpoche doesn't like me. What's wrong? Why doesn't Rinpoche like me? They perceive it as some sort of looking down on them, or that I'm looking down on people, or the way I talk, or I don't like them or something. Actually happens all the time in retreat. Happens quite a bit. They're talking, I'm looking over here, and then when I do give an answer, it's kind of, it's a direct answer. Then they leave saying, oh, Rinpoche hates me.
나서 선반 영어공을 쳐라가봐네. 영어 겁나 예비 소가비 전시제 예비 천소 착소 영어 당고 제바타 본정 제바제스라는 얘기지.
So next, once Yeshiva, Shiva did Sarsam.
junior tassel.
These are next. So those were our 4 dharmas. So next we have verse 35. Once you become accustomed to the mental afflictions, they are hard to cure with antidotes. Therefore, with the remedies of mindfulness and awareness, to eliminate mental afflictions the moment they arise is the practice of a bodhisattva.
Yeah. Depende disso. Fecha muito. Tá medindo tão hoje, agora que já deu ainda de já deu de lana, de coçona. Né? Lá o sangue tem capso. Ela tá com mais de 답변을 전시지 제진. 얘뭐도 때도 없어. 아니 가요 말고 엉덩으로 남자 지금도 지금 발당자는 첫살했어. 다 때문에 왔어. 남성 나머지 안 왔어. 아니 때가 벌써 아니 애들이 뺏겨서 아니 남성 파트는 애들이 계속 독서자. 양 파트 되게 선들이 독서자. 근데 얘가 되는 말로 가서 잘하고 다 독서 좀 가져야지. 뭐 끼든 하고 와지. 딱 본점서도 가르쳐 벌써 나고 맞으면 여기 하나 아니 차례. 독서 좀 그래서.
The one particular example, say you're initially meeting someone or have a conversation with someone, maybe you know them, but anyway, the first thing out of their mouth is something that kind of upsets you. The first word. I was in an interview with Ricochet. Sorry. But some word comes out that upsets you. So what to do is with powers of mindfulness and awareness, mindfulness and vigilance, to recognize that. Oh, they said something. Then to not hold on to it, to not care for it, to not take it to heart. Recognizing that, oh, they've said something, it affected me, and then allowing it to be just like the wind, go in one ear, out the other ear, to not safeguard it. Otherwise, if you don't recognize that that's happened, they said something and upset me, rising up, getting upset about it, and instead you're holding on to that, nurturing that, caring for that, the bad words they said, then you're getting upset, and then naturally you're going to retaliate in some form. Maybe initially it'll be one little, small thing. You say something bad, intended. And then same thing happens for them, and then it goes back and forth, and then both of you are escalating progressively together. So don't do that. Instead, recognize the moment that arises with the power of mindfulness, and allow it to naturally dissipate. This is total course eradication or something. Just allowing something to dissipate all of its own accord by not caring for it, not nurturing it, to let it come and let it go.
네. 다? 가르쳐요. 말하면서 가서 뭐는 지어도 들어도 네. 밀어서 뛰어는데 칼 다 쉬고요. 서로 하면 뛰어는데 칼 다 쉬고요. 말했어. 되니? 가래는 지금 가르쳐요. 네. 되니? 지금 와서 추나고 있잖아요. 추나는 다 지금 알아서 내 독자를 내 하고 말해서 저라. 이거 알아서 첫째로요 말했어. 믿어 봤다 그랬어. 네 하고 하면 그때 제거요 그랬어. 그때는 제가 콜 때도 세마도. 아니, 나서 라는 수단이 작은 거 왔어.
So most of us, most people, have a solid understanding of how to look at others, how to look at the faults and flaws of others. We often don't really know how to look at our own flaws, to look within ourselves. Even within the context of Dharma, this happens. Right? We study the Dharma and we know exactly what is bad, what is to be abandoned. And then we're expert at seeing others engaging in that and pointing that out. Oh, that's not in accord with the Dharma, what they're doing over there. We just have this ability to do that. It's very hard and difficult for us to really join that, look inward and join that understanding by focusing on ourselves, looking at our own faults and flaws.
아니, 와서 가래는 지금 와서 답변은 민니라고 제가 알아서 먼저 받는 노래라고 지어나. 对吧？这出去的这个你干的用不了的，这客人用嘛的，对吧？你看，对的，哪怕这个有的呢，我该看用嘛了，这也会这都要。你看这个那的，你看有的你咋差不多？这个有的你也要嘛，真的不行。你那样，俺说带什么来学呢？那你得俺学了，什么的？哦，这天呢，没快乐的。这天呢，快乐没现在这个这个不少。这天呢，没现在这个快乐这个什么？看看这快乐节，让快接了现在去，让快接了现在去，看看俺那个就看看就怕得多，让去吧的，他们有那个年龄人的说，那个叫的咱的大新闻的说，那我那天那都不是，我看看，让他给不着了，那俺做不就的，忙过去给不着了，你我写的。俺做等白给不着的，让我你写门都不，就现在。직진은 와서 깨비올 야구 지혜와 사만 시에가 사만 직진은 나 들어보던데 딱 때려봐 시에가 왔어.
때문에 이게 개별로 있죠.
가는 나는 좀 가는 사람 미래 봐 줘고 생기면이 나랑 쓰다니더니 개나가 말했어.
When there is a disharmony, disagreement between some people, we would say almost all the time, and by definition, problems arising between two people, there's some sort of fault on both sides going on there. Just like with clapping hands, it takes two hands to clap. If you have just one hand, you'll never make a sound with it. One person is totally faultless, and the other has all the problems going on, all the issues. Then really you don't have two aspects to really make the problem come about. Really, always takes two to tango sort of thing. Often a little problem, a little disharmony comes about, and when people are just involved in focusing on others and understanding what the fault of the other party was, then that will grow exponentially, and that the sides, grow in number behind this person, and other people are lining up, taking sides, and the whole time not looking in at your own side, just armies against each other building up. I've seen this happen all the time, a lot. Often it happens, I've seen it with practitioners that were in retreat for long, long times. Where they stay in retreat for years on end. They're in retreat for a long time, and they never seem to grasp, learn, and figure out how to look within their own faults, their own side of the street. So they totally missed that. And often over the years, translators get blamed. Oh, they're not. It's the translator's fault. They didn't understand it right. I don't think they know what they're talking about. I don't know what's going on. Everybody's getting blamed. Often the translators are getting blamed. They get put right in the middle of the problem.
많이 가요 말았어. 나랑 너무 가요. 나랑 나보이 뭐야 통도와. 지관에서 밀밭에서 이런 항상 내가 한번 통도와. 콜을 뺏기서 나 버나 보지. 나쁘진 거였어도. 지나지 쪼마진 것이었어. 밑에 항상 통도와. 나랑 가려요. 나랑 통도와. 제가 다 대통령의 길을 갈고 그래서 내가 나서라는 거 매너지 꼬고요. 해와 나가든 없지. 내가 이혼했더니 말하는 속에 애니 통과를 마도 나서 딱 봐도 나랑 따져도요 말이 나서 무시치 모여네. 충충 파다야 무시치 모여서 미리 충충어서 터지니 최고 통과를 해요. 나랑 나랑 가야 통 말해. 제가 다 니노한테 손으로 너나 다 담아들 손으로 너나 강다 너나 강나 요남 찌지장 랑그 샘진니까 너라시 윤들 전부 시기 대마에 양다로 받았을라네 다 욕들 봐.
Just like seeing with our own eyes. We can't really see our face, right? Whatever's on our own face, got a little black spot, a little bug on our face. We can't see it at all. I can see exactly what's on your face. Don't even have to try. I can see a tiny little spot. Oh, there's a little bug. There's something, you got a little something in there on your face. Yeah, but our own face we don't see. We really need a mirror like this, you know. Once we have a mirror, then we can see directly, clearly ourselves. But often we don't have that. Instead, we seem to naturally have super high prescription thick glasses. Even with individuals that are small, you know, far off, they appear really large. You can see perfectly. I see them really clearly. Really, all of that relates to this last verse, including our last instruction here. In brief, wherever you are and whatever you do, always examine the state of your mind. Cultivating mindfulness and awareness continuously to benefit others is the practice of a bodhisattva.
그래서 랑게 선을 빼지 랑게 껴는 빼지 전바다 신신성인데 딱을 보고 해서 못하디 전바다 신신 내비고 거니 얘네 다 랑게 잡아 가르치고 껴는 가르치고 얘네 맞아 멜 파티도 지도 많이 받지 랑게 껴는데 랑게 세지 여러분 대나기 얘네 말하는 쪽에 얘네 얘네 다 껴는 들어가지 통보요네 내가 다 써봤고 다 경쟁스면은 생긴 거 밑에 붙이고 얘나 때문에 잠바지 써봤지 하버드 당달래지 얘네 이해하는 거였어요 햄버거들한테 얘는 jam식이 나네
Meaning here, really meaning here, with the powers of mindfulness and awareness continuously to always examine the state of your own mind, to use your own powers of mind to look at yourself, to be investigating, to be knowing of your mind and your own faults. This is the practice, and it's performed by constantly maintaining one's mindfulness and awareness, or mindfulness and vigilance. And based on that, then whatever activities, whatever behavior, whatever conduct one is engaging in, then you engage it by not attending to, not focusing on the situation, the faults, flaws of others, but instead making it one's practice to, by oneself, look at oneself, identifying one's own issues, faults, problems, mental states, whatever is arising. Then, even when you do see, glaring faults of others, when you do recognize a fault or flaw in others, then cultivate patience, tolerance with whatever's arising. Tolerance, you deal with it with love, the quality of love and gentility and tolerance, and willingly take up whatever situation one may be in. So, acting in this way, cultivating mindfulness and awareness continuously to benefit others. So by doing that is our practice of how to benefit others. Thus is the practice of a bodhisattva.
네, 엄마한테 가서 나서 때 가서 농가지는 대지였어. 네, 모셔왔어. 영무치. 네, 대모될 때는 가서 딱 그런 거 농가한테 들어와. 미 약국 찍어요 말했어. 용조 두께 알았어. 참아 두께 알았어. 미 용조 농가지는 미 약국 찍어요 말했어. 참아 두께 알았어. 강의에서는 참에 나를 누구 제외했어. 그래서 다 모양 싸마다 가르쳐나 다 끼워매지도 모양 찍고 그러고. 가르쳐나 다 참아 뭐를 뭐가 붙이서 가서 뭐를 끼워지 여봐도 뭐 쉬거든. 참에 뭐를 뭐가 붙이고 옆에 손서 이게 농구할 때는 왜 좀 참아 두께 알았어.
Long ago, in one village, one land, and there was one elderly woman there who said, in this region, my area, there's not a single decent human being. Everyone here is bad. There's not one decent person around here. And he said, why is that? Everybody's just bad to me. They're all mean to me all the time. Nobody likes me. Really, just, that was all she was focused on. She saw that nobody liked her. Everybody did bad to her. She had no perception at all of her own faults or flaws that might be leading to others not liking her.
Then 다 참선한테는 말하는 속에 아니 대주 여러 가지. 내가 나도 당하서 아니 직 와서 아니 다 여행이 지금 알아서 쫙 생각이 와. 여행이 다 지금 알아서 배. 다 지금 참선 많이 가려져야 참선을 두개하지야 따라서 가까워지 여러 가지. 내지 여한테 다 그래서 맞지. 랑철지야 생각이 와서 계속 랑철지 보여. 가리진스는 때문에 컨트롤 나서면은 저바 생명대 왜 영화야? 근데 설을 대치하고 그렇지 영화했어.
That being said, sometimes others do bad things to us, say bad things about us, harm us in different ways, treat us bad. This will happen. In these situations, then, of course, they need to be taken on the path, taken as the path. In particular, if there's no one that to make you upset, no one to bring about anger in you, then there's no place to practice tolerance, no place to give rise to patience.
야, 근데 나랑도 참상 딱 때는 나랑도 아니 다 직나서 동아리다 녀문가서 거기서 남도 최선도 나랑도 그 년내 차리고 왜냐 얘네 동아리 때 통나 때는 나랑도 연영제로 맞아 동아리마다 가려서 연영제로 이제요 막
Shinkidu.
야 얘네는 방에는 아주 얘네들 너무
Also sometimes by recognizing suffering, by recognizing afflictive emotions in ourselves or others. And by taking those very states or the recognition of those in others as the path, then those very things become our spiritual practice, our training. By witnessing the suffering of others or in ourselves, by seeing that, recognizing that, then we are then able to engender renunciation, and so forth.
다 기타에 또 끼어든 용성을 보지. 여가를 때니 나서 그때라 냠내지 하지 않아요. 맨날 정보지 맨 나서 짐바탕에 쓰는데 동네지 맨날 가서 짐바탕에 영화로. 그래. 나서라 때니 다 축과 재년으로 지다. 대체 맨날 뭐가 와도 제사 맨날 저바 생각돼. 검사지 맨도 근데 사람들 그래서 말하지 해서 나도 산지리 생겨게 지어냈어. 나도 장교 생겨게 산지리는 가서 지어야지 믿어. 이거 말 나요 말하다 산지를 써왔다 하지 뭐. 생겨서 생겨도 생겨를 지고.
Sempiesa.
야 생겨. 대양 생겨. 동화를 여봐. 녀무 여봐. 가는데 다 됐다고 그 생겨 그래도 다면 나랑도 그때게 애니 야리 세기 줘봐 생긴 열세기 너 같아서 아주 생겨요 너 생겨데 야포장장 이런 나랑서 그래 하는 거 생겨는 미라봐요 도피하여 노라요 나차요 강을 여봐대 여봐 인정 아니 맞다 제시스터 뉴스에 줘봐 나를 수지 서변 생겨서 근데 혹시 그 사자들 알아요 대신 삼선은 나라서 장축축 넣으면 생계에서 가정이 치워. 변요구는 내 요래 생계에서 가정이 치워서.
Really, the faults, flaws, problems, and suffering of the world really give us lots of fodder for practice, for our training. If there weren't poor people, then place objects for us to practice generosity. It's based on people that bring about conflict in our lives, problems, people that we don't like, we don't get along with, that we have sources for cultivating tolerance and patience. Without the variety of beings and issues and situations and problems in the world, we would be lacking in means or sources to truly engage in the Bodhisattva path. Often, or sometimes it's said that for us on the Bodhisattva path, sentient beings are actually more important than the Buddha. There's the Buddha, and we supplicate, we make prayers to the Buddha, but really it's based on sentient beings that you're able to truly give rise to bodhicitta. It's contingent upon sentient beings that we engender the precious mind of enlightenment. And not just perfect and happy, contented sentient beings, but sentient beings with suffering, with problems, with afflictive emotions. It's because we have them that there is bodhisattva conduct. And because of sentient beings that there are the trainings of bodhisattva, cultivating bodhicitta. All sorts of sentient beings, the sick, the difficult, the problematic, the troubled, the suffering, the multitude, a variety of sentient beings, all of them are fuel for our practice, to be taken as our practice, as our spiritual training, which is really how it is we're to train in the 37 practices of a bodhisattva. It's based on all this variety of sentient beings that we're to take these practices to heart, make them our practice. In Bodhicharyavatara, the way of the Bodhisattva, Shantideva speaks to this. The multitude of the variety of sentient beings, what kindness they afforded me. Praising the great kindness of sentient beings for being the source of training in the Bodhisattva path.
그래서 다음은 게 소소스. 얘네 다 joke. 다 와서 제스라네. 숨겨서도만 다 다른 와서 이게 트롭이네. 다 개와 주장도 다 joke 개와. 나는 상처도 보아. 얘들 좀 드롭이 개와는 파인 로비 동안 서비 차를 콜son 나만 다 시럽제 장초 뭐와 제스라네.
So that concludes the main text, the main body of the text itself. So now we're at the conclusion, which is the dedication. So we've accomplished the main practice and now of the 37 practices of the Bodhisattva. So now the dedication, which is dedicating all the virtue to complete enlightenment itself, expressed in the 37th verse. To clear away the suffering of all infinite beings with superior knowledge free of concepts of the three spheres, to dedicate the merit accumulated through these efforts to enlightenment is the practice of a bodhisattva.
다때까지송은 다디 말하는 저 장조 선비기 때문에 맞다. 이라래. 예탐지 다 말하는 소비니 투성 공루집이 개완대요. 그래봐. 타입이선 예탐지 때문에 동안 세력제도 봐. 네, 개왔대요. 뭐가 좋쇼? 소리 그냥 얘기. 뭐가 접선이, 양 대양 소som 넘버는 도비기, 넘버 바꾸기 싫어. 다만 대양 싫어 동반이지 지생 거라서. 뭐가 없다. 이게 맞죠? 제 그냥 요 대답했다. 소som 넘버 도비. 애는 맞죠? 애는 싫어 동반이 지생 소거이나. 얘네 맞죠? 개와 사비지 개와 지다 담지 얘네 사매 시지요 얘네 자 자이 담지 담지 그래서
So how exactly are we dedicating here? So dedicating all of the virtue of listening, contemplation, and meditating, cultivating these practices, these trainings of the Bodhisattva. Making the prayer that they be dedicated for the sake of all sentient beings reaching complete enlightenment. Dedicated so that the suffering of the infinitude of sentient beings be cleared away, eliminated. And then So that's our dedication, and then we conclude it with, as it says, with superior knowledge free of concepts of the three spheres. So we conclude it with remaining in the non-conceptual state that does not conceptualize or fixate on the three spheres being the agent, action, and the virtue itself, the object. I've engaged in this, I'm dedicating this to sentient beings, the three spheres, subject, object, and action, being divorced of those, namely meaning embracing the practice and the dedication with emptiness, with pure transcendent wisdom of emptiness.
Voilà, 딱 됐다면 되는 알아.
So then by doing this, by concluding our dedication, by resting in a state of emptiness that does not conceptualize the three spheres, subject, object, and action, embracing the dedication with that, then it transforms the defiled virtue, or the virtue that can be exhausted, into undefiled or inexhaustible virtue, the virtue or the merit of primordial wisdom.
딱 됐다면 되는 거죠. 다른 사람이 나서 개와 충충지 제바이나 니마지 개와 돼. 남성 되는 거죠. 됐다면 되는 아 말고 같아. 너희 자관이나 간에서 왜나 되는 거죠. 양서 전부 제기나 나랑 그 축특까지 녹자고이나 양서 전부 그더니 저도 막아거든 나랑 축특까지 감시해 말. 대 너희 대 야와 세다 집에게 근데 말하는 좀 깨닫대다 냠든 레노 레서 맞아 사지 마득지 봐도 대 식통해나 되네 대다 말하는 좀 애니 다 넘버 제하게 애니 대요 말했다 너보다 요 말했어 근데 sonza 개와 탐지 생각한지 그치도 응 원인데 스스마치 제일한테 다시 무시그래 맞아 깨닫던지 되는 다 제인지 매신 거지 봐 깨닫던지 오늘 언더 패버를 제봐 나서 다 깨닫던지 지 되는 대나게 다 말하는 좀 그냥 상면은 줘야지 되는데 다시 모르는데 맞아 준다 되네 통이 거
Likewise, this form of dedication is not just to be engaged right now in our current practice, the virtue we've amassed now, but you should, whatever little bit of virtue, whatever virtue you engage in, should be dedicated in this exact same way. I dedicate the virtue of this day, or the virtue I amassed today in this way, or whatever it may be. Then if we dedicate properly in this way, then it's just like a droplet of water being dropped into the ocean, where until the ocean itself is dried up, that single drop will not dry up. By this dedication, we're joining our virtue to the immeasurable virtue of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And when our virtue is dedicated in this way, joined with the virtue of the enlightened beings, then it becomes indestructible. It cannot degenerate. It's not defiled. It cannot be exhausted in any way. It's no longer possible. Again, this is how we're to dedicate. Conceptually thinking, this virtue, this positivity, I dedicate, I offer to all sentient beings, and then embracing it with remaining in the state of emptiness. Embracing it with emptiness. Then by doing this, our virtue cannot be impacted by any conditions, cannot be negated by any conditions, but will only proliferate more and more. So always, whatever virtue we engage in, we need to dedicate it in this way in order to make it undefiled or inexhaustible.
다 가면 돼. 되는 거죠. 가면 개와. 조그도. 되는 조그. 요정 다 데이터베이스 데이터가 다 당고의 가능성은 다 데이터베이스니 대형 강의 다 지금 알아서 가능시 가만히 중간 인쇄와 다 지금 강의 때만 인쇄나서 노주 땡주 남는 송비통 세탐 도다 땡주 탐지 송이야 담반 남지 송그 예장대 자세라는 숨죠 남제 자세 남자라는 숨주도 자세 남나 놈도 나도 거 다 자기 가다 땡주 자세 장교 숨반 남자 송 에다 탐지니 이제 저 다 장교 자세가 남나 놈도 있지 공상공 제지는 나서 제발 예서도 가는 중요하다.
So then we have the virtue of the end, the concluding virtue, the meaning of the conclusion of the end, which begins with discussing the source. Where did this teaching come from? What's the progeny? What's its source? Relying on what is taught in the sutras, tantras, and treatises, identifying the sutras and tantras, the very teachings of the Buddhas, the victorious one, and their treatises, the treatises of the Bodhisattvas and the enlightened masters, and the words of the genuine masters. And based on this, I have composed these 37 Bodhisattva practices to benefit those who wish to train on the Bodhisattva path. So based on the sources being the spoken words, the teachings of the enlightened masters, the Buddhas, then condensing that, bringing it down, condensing that, drawing from those sources, then for those individuals who wish to train on the Bodhisattva path, these trainings were laid out, put forth, mainly for those of a good heart, good mind, and also here saying with excellent intention gathered these teachings together. So then next the author describing himself and the mode of composition. So because my intelligence is small and my studies few, I cannot compose poetry to please the scholars. Yet since they are based on sutras and the teachings of the genuine masters, I believe these practices of a bodhisattva are not mistaken.
가르쳐 나서 말해 권한 육사되죠. 내용구나 무슨 절망 공 가셔지 나무래서 가셔지 나 되는 권한도 로마에서 되는 지가 이제 양 많이 되지 못한 보여서
너무 안 되죠.
되는 권한도 로마 지를 말 가능한 거와 동생이 같이 살도 깨자지 최소 아서 그래서 옆에 남한테서 약을 왜 맞서 인지 남한테서 약을 했어 깨자지 최소 아서 그래서 고소들이 완전히 먹어요 사람 더 시키면서 아무것도 없어 한 거야 당시에서 녹색 배지 민감하러 왔어 엄마한테서 신기해 돼서 나 미시했어 그래요 그래서 이 샤르네는 뭔가 샤죠 받아서 너 받아서 돼서 미시해도 돼서 그야 나 시슬라고 그랬어 강시 녹색 민감하러 왔어 얘나야 신기해 되게 신기해 돼 맛있어요 알죠 미시게 시세요 알죠 신기해 맛있으니 때에서 다가 매로 상관없어
So here is an expression of humility, concluding the text. Really, this is standard for the ancient masters. The lamas of before really, it's kind of been changing. It's kind of different how we perceive this, engage with this, and lamas act these days. Well, before, this was the standard. All great masters, even though they had great understanding, they claim, I have no understanding, I don't know. Take the lowest seat possible. But these days in the West, in particular, this doesn't work for us. We need somebody that knows. They say they know, and then often us too. This is just kind of our tradition. Nobody knows more than I do about this. I'm an expert in this. That's just kind of our way. Shantideva too, in his expression of humility, said, although I am not learned in the sacred texts, and although I lack the mindset intent on the welfare of others, which of course we all know wasn't true. This is just a standard way, his expression of humility. But really, we've kind of lost this. It's different today. Some time ago, Dungse Tinley Norbu in New York, his center, his home in New York, was teaching. Actually, I heard this story, and he was offering Dharma teachings, and I think maybe a bunch of his Western students were quite arrogant at issues that towards the end there was one insisting, I want to ask one question, I need to ask this thing. So he asks, so Rinpoche, these days today, would you say that the Tibetan masters or the American masters are better? He was kind of figured out. So Rinpoche says, oh, well, something culturally, the cultural tradition's quite different. Where before, and kind of for us, the masters that truly did understand, they would always say they didn't understand, they didn't know. Over here, it's kind of, in the West, it seems that we have the trend of those that particularly don't know claim they do know. So really, there's a difference in culture between how we're doing this. But I can't really say who's better, But maybe if I think about it, maybe a little bit, if when you do know and you say you don't know, maybe that's a little bit better.
그래서 공부에 들어서 공부를 매봐. 내내 배드기서 대비를 미시게. 내내 제바도 정도고 매봐 송도. 공 매줘들 말해서 공부에 한 레벨 해봐래. 이내야 다 kin과 좀 왔어요. 내가 같이 뭐 열었어요. 김종도 송이야 그랬는데 나 저배드기서 그냥 삼사 근데 지금 와서 그들이 음악이 지금 이만한 사람들이 고도 고로도 아니 너만 가서 캠봉가 좋은 것도 되도록 가서 나만 정보도 와 그래서 전 근데 망고 송유로 봐 근데 son데 나 인제가 맞게 갈라고 했어 캠봉가 좋다 가서도 찍바로 그래도서 은혜서도 공부했을 공공하라 뺐을 찍던데서 은혜가 얘는 뭐라도 암주 지면절에 암주는 줘도 야본 줘도 돼 근데 캠봉가 좋은데 가서도 찍래도 있어서
암초.
암주는 줘 코랑에 다텔라 배치서 거기서 코랑에 야보지 때문에 샘는 거기서 다 빼 야보지 고도 코랑에 다 끼었는데 코랑에 여바지 통도와 얘네야 다 개봉은 좋은 거 같아 송 코랑에 끼었는데 송으로 왔다 앞에서 계속 배치서 뭐 달로스들까지 지지기를 달라져도 지지기를 근데 코랑에 되지 코랑 싸면 야보지 당셔 코랑에 좀 있었는데 내 말에 그래서 그 개봉은 좋은데 안 가서라고 그래도 살아서 서도 그런가? 어때 들으서 예상을 하는 땅은 되는 땅에 yanti kasa ene de mare de kona bal joyo ma asor joyo asu jonde de mata ya bichedo otus songare ma to de ya masa ko.
So then, here too, Dr. Tolman, his expression of humility, claiming his intelligence to be small and his studies few, to not be his composition poor. No, that's not true. He was incredibly learned, a great scholar, master. But this is his necessary expression of humility, which actually serves quite a purpose. It's important. That being said, it can also sometimes be misunderstood, its function, its purpose. Some time ago, I had a student, and she was reciting Kibble Nakchung's Lakyangpa, calling the Guru from afar. Where there's this whole litany of faults, kind of expressed in a way where it's like they're his faults. So she kind of came to Rinpoche and she said, "Wow, Kibble Nakchung, it seems like he's really just like us. Has faults just like us." Really, for her, she was reading it well, and she was really taking it into her heart, and she was recognizing these faults in herself and like working in that way. Then at the same time, she was saying, "Oh, Kibble Nakchung, he seems just like me. I have these faults, he had these faults, Simpatico, where he lists off all these faults, one after the other, that she was recognizing in herself. So her contemplation on it was good, but she was kind of missing the point of the expression of humility. Great masters are not actually doing this, pointing out their actually existent, their own faults. It's really intended to help us bring out and recognize our own faults. That's the intention behind it, the function it's serving.
Really? I did love weird thing. I think that's a suited without this on a daily to the half where she was. Mama didn't finance any deputy the general Machella. Interview with you never is. Oh, you got to the children was Sakwa. What's Sakwa? Oh,
News.
huh?
News like BBC, CNN.
What?
News.
News. Saturate.
Then it's a joke on you. Then you're 처럼 미스바 법이 나와. 처럼 다 내배 개발을 쓰거든. 근데 처럼 드레스 가르치는 법중을 잡아야 돼. 근데 처럼 드레스 가르치는 개발 잡아야 해. 근데 콜레트는 되고 하고는 도스는 거기서. 근데 밑에서 대가스게 나비야. 막가 개식메스. 밑에서 대가스야 써야 돼. 아, 법중 가르쳐 마요. 아까 개식메스. 근데 거기는 콜 파로래. 근데 콜 파로 잡아 침보지. 근데 영어는 뭐지 쓰는데? 가야 미시게 법중 저 제용 말았어. 나다 밑에서 휴지서 미 옛날에 저조래. 주만 저조래서 나가도 내가 대장이 코로나랑 그 나라 시에죠. 네. 코로나랑 시에 내가 대장. 그래서 나가 시에 내가 대장 코로나랑 시에죠. 상관없고 그래서.
We were just sharing this function of the expression of humility in this tradition because we need to understand it. It can be misunderstood. For example, Jujum Rinpoche was in France and a news reporter shows up to interview him. Asked Jujum Rinpoche, I had like a microphone, and was asking Jujum Rinpoche, said, "Oh, I've heard that that among all the Tibetans, you're the most learned, most like exalted, greatest scholar of all the Tibetans. Everyone says this, I keep hearing this, so how is it you became so learned? Like, what's your secret? How did you study? Where did you study? How did this all come about?" Puts my phone in his face. He says, no, they're just saying that, it's not true. I never studied anything, I don't know anything. They're just making that up. It's just others, making stuff up. I know nothing. So then the interviewer, I've never studied, he says. I don't know anything. So then news reporter goes about their business and writes this big article about Jujum Rinpoche, saying, Jujum Rinpoche knows nothing. He's never studied anything. Less than a simpleton. Everything that's been said about him, exalting Jujum Rinpoche, it's all made up by others. Don't listen to all these others, and you can trust me because Jujum Rinpoche told me himself. Or all this other stuff, there's other people talking about it, but Jujum told me himself, so it's got to be true. It came out of his own mouth.
그래서 다양 나란 저거 언장 세다 다 제스 줘봐 납치는 나고 다 로메 단지 띵고까지 정가다 맘들다서 예배죠 담발 남지 저버는 제도서 다 그런 거 찍들이 뭐든 뭐니 어제래 세다 근데 지원은 저버서 소말에 다 근데 근데 다 대신 찍어야
Nevertheless, since the vast conduct of a bodhisattva is difficult to fathom, for one with an inferior intellect such as mine, I pray to the genuine masters to consider with patience all my mistakes, such as contradictions, incoherence, and so on. So here's saying, I tried, there's likely many mistakes in here, so please be patient with me, or I'm sorry for them. So similar tone to the last verse.
다 됐다고 제발 양가서 대례중을 기빈 거와도 당한당 충격 장축 생기고 세다 기빈 타라미니 예ren 생각대로 송발쇼 다 타는 게 뭐. 아 되게와 되세요나? 그냥 심지어는 되게 좋은
And this final verse and final dedication. By virtue of the merit gathered here, by the power of relative and ultimate bodhicitta, may all sentient beings become like the protector Chinmezi, who dwells neither in the extreme of existence nor in that of peace. So here the final dedication. If there is a tiny bit of virtue in this, may it be dedicated for the sake of all sentient beings.
그래서 다 뒤때는 이제 다 제시 다 제비스보다 뭐 통역이 제가 네, 나한테 되는 거는 자다 되게 되는 특유인데 자연 천재원보다 되는 장관 공부를 대선 마 되는 주제 되는 천재를 뭐지 천재를 뭐인데 되는 거서 착하시 특나서 그래서 당연히 특유인데 내 천재를 뭐지네요 나 천재를 뭐지 특유인데 십자지 송거네요 다 간다는 장관 공부를 해 다티 연주 굉장히 제대로하고 다티 연주 다시 이제 답변을 주세요. 같이 시즌 약습이 공부를 되니까서 이제 약습은 이제 약습은 진짜로 뭐지 예사 열 정도 당아
공부기 스팅 야트라
시즌자들 그래도 지인 전에도 있는 직진의 세번에 직진하는 이게 토익들이 나는 여사래 파체들의 이인 전에도 근데 뭐만나서 칸이야 자기야 로도와
감내 타지
다 지고 봐 자기 로도와 근데 야 아부 호그 정말이야 로바 사제들이야 로도와 근데 다 그하고 그 가서 다 지면에서 시대는 조금 되어서 다 코스만 nga 경기 쪽 여기 nga 주 경기 다 자와게 통도와 nga 경기 그 나오지 선도와 그거 자와게 nga 직진의 경기 직 톱여사요 정도 이나 nga 톱이 되지 때나 맞아 하고 무슨 nga 톱이 되지 까고 지금 내가 당연히 파친데 이런 장면이 있네요 직진의 톱이 되지
So 37 practices of Bodhisattva composed by Tomei. So my lineage I received this instruction from comes from Jamgon Kongtrul and Kensei Wangpo. I received it directly on several occasions from Dogo Kensei Rinpoche, quite extensively. And I don't remember exactly the precise lineage. I think it was that Jamgon Kongtrul passed this lineage of transmission, teaching to Sechen Gyaltsepu and taught it to Dogo Kensei, and I received it from him. I seem to remember it that way, but I'm not 100% positive. I'll have to check my list of teachings. Check the list of it. Tonight, Logan Kamki Jungdeng Gotumas.
So Rinpoche said he has to check his list or record of receiving teachings. So Rinpoche has a whole long list, so that's what he can remember. So he's going to relate one story related to this one, like he couldn't remember. So once upon a time in the Kham, northern side of Kham, there's nomads. So one of the monk from Kham went to the nomad's place, and then so they were very old man. Now like he felt so renunciation for his life, and he wanted now become a monk. Like, so please bestow me a bhikshu bow, monk bow. It's called Gelong, bhikshu bow. So then he said, might be, so please bestow me. So then he was saying, I might have received that one, but I need to first check my list. I received this bhikshu bow. I was Rinpoche said, I need to check.
올라서 다 다리 드린 알아서 다 전에 참아 철송 전에 야고를 드린 알아다 말로 보나 다다다 야시 다다다 그런 담아 다 됐더니 다 제가 저 그냥에 제더니 다다다 우중다 참아서 되는다 거기 기관 좀 좋아하는 그런 기관 살지 야시 렌데 그런 철송 나서 되네 다 가만히 말하면 돼. 되나. 내가 저때 나저다 이런 거를 손대. 제삼 공심지를 개발해서 담지. 샘제 담지 제동아 저다 뭐만 내지. 되니? languages.
So that concludes our teachings on Gyaltse Lapa and 37 practices of the Bodhisattva. Went well. So I went through everything in here. And finished just before departing, leaving for Asia. The Lojong, our Sunday teachings on Lojong mind training, will continue when I come back. We didn't finish those, but really the content here is kind of the same. So we finished 37 practices, and we'll continue the Lojong when I return. And we've been at this for quite some time, several months. And so now the entirety of the virtue of our listening, contemplating, and meditating, cultivating these teachings in our own experience, we can dedicate all of that to the welfare of all sentient beings. So we'll together recite the dedication and aspiration prayers.
Maybe as money offering. Yeah, it's an advance prayer.
Page 9.
Exit 16. Okay, religious dedication. The religious long life. Also, the Yawa Choya Yishin Yumen Yudrin Yotse Gujin Yudru Sama Tezi Chopo Tate Zejin Harye Chokama Duma So Chodo Guzerim Soman Techen Tajin Yaman Soman Corvation comes up and the Manu Jesse wanted to get so you sharpest and the waters and your also sing your one to your each you met to men in the yourself. Ojin yedu san ten kuzen da ten lama.
ene cheranzo ene kotsel moyuya ene tata yamle kophaliya ene no survey na cheranzo chamara ene ngage ene yaboyuya be produce be yinya ngaranzo par toje ene dorje fubando ne ngato chucho chena ene tasongara zo ene tsoguyore ene ngato tsamara de man jabyo chato tsamaya ngato ne ta nyamne jeso de kimana na ona ene tsamara ne trashidele wasal trashidele chapje shumi ene tjera ya
So also Tibetan New Year's coming up. Losar is coming up. The fire bird year is just around the corner. So for May is my aspiration. Tashidalit. Auspiciousness arises for all of you. That your lives go well, that we all have long lives, and that your practice, your spiritual training develops without any obstacles. And this is my aspiration, my prayer, and I will be praying that for all of you to have a wonderful New Year, wonderful Losar. And also in Asia and Nepal, we'll be performing Yangpor, Prabha Vajrakalaya Drupchen, where I will likewise be making aspiration prayers on all of your behalf, and we'll all be praying on your behalf. And it's my request that all of you practice with this in your mind too, and make aspiration prayers and supplication prayers as well for all of us. And so my auspicious wishes, Tashidalit, to all of you for the new year.
Lasso tenen Jola in bye bye. Teni good night dan teni tayo bye bye nyam la wings. Ini yang dawa khashik jera. Ini yang mahshin jayo.
So I'm saying good night and goodbye. See you later, together, now at once. And I just said it, so if I don't die in the next few months, I will see you again.
Okay.
Have a great trip with Shahid.
Okay.
Good retreat.
Oh, maybe. Also.